Evening, everyone. Sorry we're a wee bit late, but we're here now. So, welcome to our Scottish Myths and Legends night. I'm not going to be doing much talking. I will be putting the odd comment in here and there. This is really Sarah and Laura's night. So, we've got Laura here and Sarah's on the other computer to do the PowerPoints. So, carry on, ladies.
Alrighty. Right, Laura, you're the first story.
Okay, the first story this evening is called The Nine Maidens of Dundee. This story is about a farmer who lived with his 9 beautiful daughters on a farm. After a busy day at work, the farmer sent his eldest daughter to gather water from a nearby well. However, when she failed to return, he sent his second eldest daughter, who also failed to return. He then sent his third daughter, who also failed to return, and so on, until all 9 daughters failed to return. When all 9 daughters failed to return, the farmer went to investigate why they hadn't returned, only to find the slain bodies of his 9 beautiful daughters strewn across the ground by the well. Coiled, however, around their battered bodies, basking in the blood of the innocent victims, the farmer was horrified and aghast to see a huge serpent-like dragon. Fearing he was about to become the 10th victim that evening, the farmer fled and called his neighbours, who subsequently returned armed with weapons to slay the beast. Perhaps the farmer sensed he was no match for the dragon or the baying mob. The dragon attempted to make his escape. But alas, a young man named Martin caught up with him. Using only a wooden club, he beat the dragon, eventually slaying it. Well, after the dragon was dead, the crowd shouted, "Strike Martin." The place where the dragon was defeated was named subsequently Strike Martin, a name which lives on in Dundee to this day. Martin's stone stands alone in a field 1 mile north of the village of Bridgefoot, which is previously known as Cupton or Strathmartin, itself now in the northern fringes of Dundee. Today, if you walk down the city's high street, you'll come face to face with a statue of that dragon.
That's the first story.
That's the
So,
first
obviously,
story.
Strike Martin, down through the years, get renamed Strathmartin.
Yep.
Sorry.
Sorry, Laura, I'm not here to correct you. I'm just here to, because there's a lot of famous Scottish songs that mention Dundee and Strathmartin. So I'm not here to correct you, doll. It's your show. You say it's live. I'm just here to provide the good looks and the odd comment here and there. But hi, Craig, and hi, Stephen. I'll do the wigs the next time the girls are on, Stephen, as promised earlier on today or last night, whatever time thing you're on just now. I think you're up early actually, my man. I think. Maybe possibly I could be wrong because I get mixed up. But anyway, it's the girls' show. So the farmer sent one daughter out, she didn't come back, and then he sent other one.
Yep.
You think he'd go out looking himself?
He did?
No, after the first one didn't come back.
Well, you would think so.
I'm not disputing the story, I'm just saying. Carry on, ladies. I'm saying nothing.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so on to the second story then. So back in the 1950s, the Gorbals area of Glasgow was being terrorised. Stories had been circulating in the Gorbals about missing children, believed killed. The culprit was said to be a 7-foot vampire with iron teeth lurking in the southern necropolis. The adults wouldn't believe the kids, so the kids decided to deal with the monster once and for all by themselves. In 1954, hundreds of young kids from the Gorbals area of Glasgow swarmed into the creepy necropolis graveyard. The police were called out but couldn't move the children. It took a local head teacher to finally disperse the crowd. Local historians believe the mass panic stemmed from the legend Jenny with the Iron Teeth, a murderous ghost said to haunt Glasgow Green. There was also an American comic book at the time entitled The Vampire with the Iron Teeth. That's the comic there. It's quite scary looking. After the story appeared in the local press, it gained worldwide coverage. An unlikely alliance of Christians, communists, and the National Union of Teachers blamed imported American horror comic books for the mass hysteria. The campaign ultimately reached Parliament, resulting in the 1955 Children and Young Persons Harmful Publication Act, which still stands today. And to this day even, there's still a stage play, a graphic novel that tells the story, and a large mural of the beast guards a local railway arch.
Well, this is, I know I'm not saying it a lot, but this is one story that really grinds my gears. And I'll probably shut down for this, but I think we've spoken about it in live before. And so it grinds my gears because I'm a Glaswegian. And over the years, this story has grown legs and legs. And it got to the stage where paranormal teams were going to investigate in the necropolis in Glasgow, claiming to have made contact with this thing, this vampire. Now, there's a couple of things that really get me. One is that they all say, oh, you know, we've met the vampire, we've seen the vampire came through on the app, whatever. But they're on the necropolis in Glasgow, which sits in Glasgow City Centre. The story of the Gorbals Vampire is based in the southern necropolis, which is about 3 miles away. So all these folk that went hunting for them and claim to have found them are in the wrong graveyard, basically. They're in the wrong location. So somebody else also done a live for there. I'm not going to name them, but they claim to have found the grave of the vampire. And the main necropolis send in. But you should send in Buffy Stephen because all this story stemmed from a comic book. But years and years later, people are believing it. Teams are investigating it, and people are claiming to have found this so-called vampire. As I say, one, they're in the right location. You know, that's the southern necropolis there, which is nothing like the big main one that sits in the city of Glasgow. Plus, if anybody was to sit up and think about this, a vampire, according to legend story, whatever you want to call it, has to feed nightly. You know, have a victim every night. This story was went back, Sarah, the late 50s.
1954.
1953, 60, 70, 80, 94, 2000. Over 60 years. So that's one person per night for the last 60 years. You're talking thousands and thousands of people gone missing in Glasgow. Somebody would have noticed, you know, there would be some kind of report about 200,000-300,000 people gone missing in Glasgow. But see, this is a sort of really great when I see teams doing lives claiming to have found the Gorbals Vampire. They came out a comic book, and again, they're in the wrong bloody location. They're 3 miles away from where the. And it's just, it all stems from. I used to do it as a kid. When I was a kid, you read a comic book, maybe an army book or something, and you and your friends would decide to go and play the game. That's the main necropolis. Big difference. This is where the teams all go hunting. In there, no there. As I say, we've all done it. Boys, especially the kids, who go and play army because they read it in a comic book. That's exactly what these kids did. They read their story and they decided, let's go and play vampire. We found the vampire and bang, years later, teams are out making beats of themselves, hunting for this thing that does not exist. But that's my beef about the Gorbals Vampire. And I think because I'm a Glaswegian, that's how it really grinds my gears, this story.
Well,
No disrespect to teams that go, people want to go hunting for it. Fair enough, but it does not exist. And it's these teams that say it does exist that you just want to punch in the face.
yeah, it's fueled by kids' imagination. Simple as that.
That's exactly it. And I say I'll probably get shot down for it, but I'll say the same thing to any man, any team that want to come up and dispute the story with me. Fair enough, come up and we'll have a ding dong and we'll have a wee chat and we'll talk about the Gorbals Vampire. Rant over. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
Carry on.
The next story is called Robert the Bruce and the Spider. And as a Scottish lady, I've actually never heard of this, so this actually intrigued me.
You never heard of this one?
Never until I read this.
Alright.
Fascinating. Well, as you all know, Robert the Bruce is well known in Scotland and subsequently across the world due to the part he played in the wars of Scottish independence. Also due to the films such as Loch. He was actually born in 1274 at Loch Castle, where he was in the Knight and Overlord of Annandale. In the year 1306, he was crowned the King of Scotland and subsequently then tried to free Scotland from the English enemy. After being defeated in battle in 1306 by the Earl of Pembroke at Methven, Robert the Bruce went into hiding, partly in the Western Isles. In the Western Isles, he actually resided in a cave for approximately 3 months. This was actually Robert the Bruce's lowest point of his life, and he was struggling to what to do next, or a plan as to what to do next. So he actually contemplated leaving the country, never to return again. However, when Robert the Bruce was waiting, legend has it that he watched a spider building a web in the entrance to the cave that he was hiding in. The typically stormy Scottish weather, which is obviously not one to disappoint, as we all know,
Never.
made the spider's task difficult to build his web, as droplet after droplet of rain destroyed the creature's intricate webwork. Finally, however, against all the odds, the spider did succeed in building his web. Robert the Bruce was then inspired by the spider's efforts, so he then decided to go up and face another fight. He is said to have told his men, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And as you all know, this is a phrase which is used every day to build positivity and to give people opportunity to keep doing things until they eventually succeed.
Very true.
Very
I can't
true.
believe you've never heard that story.
Never heard that story.
I learned that when I was at school.
No.
That's only about 20 years ago.
It's fascinating to find out that that's actually where that saying originates from.
Mm-hmm.
You learn something new every day.
Did you hear the story be?
Aye, and there's the wee stone to commemorate the story.
Wow.
And that, I'm presuming that wee plaque tells you the story.
But as usually still a saying that's used to this day, and I think we've all been in that situation at one point or another, there you just feel like giving up and, saying, sod it, I'm not doing it, but it's a message to, you might try 10 times and fail, but on the 11th time, it might happen. It's like investigating. You might go to a location 10 times and get nothing. You might go an 11th time and get some evidence, I know it's not paranormal, right, but it's kind of,
No,
it's along the same kind of lines, if you know what I mean. You just need to keep trying and trying.
I think it would be fascinating to find out actually how many people in this day still live by the saying, try again, and how many people actually know that was a saying originated from Robert the Bruce. Because I certainly didn't know that.
I'd heard the story, but I didn't know it originated from Robert the Bruce.
There you go.
But there's a lot of sayings about these days that people just use, and a lot of people don't know, myself included, where the saying originally stemmed from. I think we should do a live about that one night. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah.
All these different sayings, like, break a leg, you're pulling my leg, Saved by the Bell, mud sticks.
Break a leg, is that not a theatre thing? Is that not what they used to say when they were on to live performance?
Aye,
Today's
break a leg.
theatres? Uh-huh.
You're pulling my leg sounds to when people used to assist at hangings, and they used to pull on the legs of the condemned to speed the process up. There's no point in a library if we're going to sit here and talk about it. You give me all the answers.
It's not.
That's a bit. So, carrying on.
So the next story is obviously one that we had to include because it's quite a well-known story. So this story is about the Loch Ness Monster. So one of Scotland's most famous unsolved mysteries is that of the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie as it's affectionately known as too. The large dinosaur-like creature is reputed to inhabit Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, which is at Loch next to Urquhart Castle, where me and Scott's actually been. It's a really nice castle. Nessie has a long neck and one or more humps protruding from the water. The first recorded sighting of the monster was nearly 1,500 years ago when a giant beast is said to have leaped out of a lake near Inverness and eaten a local farmer. Since then, the myth of the Loch Ness Monster has magnified. In 1934, a London doctor snapped a photograph that seemed to show a dinosaur-looking creature emerging from the water. That's the picture there. Dozens of sightings have since been claimed, many of which have turned out to be hoaxes. In 2009, a newspaper reader claimed to have spotted Nessie whilst browsing Google Earth's satellite photos of Loch Ness. Regardless of the truth, the suggestion of the monster's existence makes Loch Ness one of Scotland's most popular tourist attractions, with thousands of people visiting its shores each year with the hope of catching a rare glimpse of the famous monster. In 2003, the BBC sponsored a search of the loch using 600 sonar beams and satellite tracking. No animal of substantial size was found, and despite the recorded hopes, the scientists admitted this proved the Loch Ness Monster was a myth.
So what do you think, ladies?
Obviously, being Scottish and growing up with the story of, or the myth of a Loch Ness Monster, I firmly believe there is, or there was something there. There's too many people believe there's something there. There's too many people, even to this day, go hunting for the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know about scientific proof. I don't know about physical proof or any other proof of that matter. But I think it always comes down to the fact of what you believe. I mean, who's not taking their children up to Loch Ness and to do Loch Ness hunting? We do have.
Aye.
Aye.
It's a story that's fascinated me for years, and I've been up and down the side of Loch Ness. I used to drive trucks, and every Wednesday that was my route down the side of Loch Ness. And numerous times I would park up there and spend the night there. And a couple of times, weather permitting, I'd go for a wee swim in the loch. Not right in the middle of it, you know. Is Nessie amphibious? I'm going to look at it here. What does amphibious mean?
Fish type thing.
Water-based.
Nobody actually knows.
This is the thing that fascinates me, because I used to go swimming a lot. I've never ever seen anything But as you say, there is a lot of stories over the years about people finding things. I believe there is something there. But let's not forget, Loch Ness is 26 miles long, and it connects to it's only Scottish Loch connects to the sea. So there is a way in and out between the Loch and the sea. There have been readings taken, sonar readings by other people that have showed something big in the Loch, and they've not been able to explain it. So it is possible that whatever this thing is does go between the sea and the Loch. What it looks like, I don't think it's a big dinosaur or anything like that, you know. I think that photograph that was put up, I think that later proved to be a fake, does it not?
Yeah, it was later proved to be not photoshopped, but it was later proved to be debunked.
Debunked that, and then there's been so many people showed photographs, but don't forget, I mean, the story originated, when was it, the 11th century? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So I mean, back then, these people seeing even something like an eel, that would have been like a beastie to them, a monster.
Absolutely.
You know, and you can get giant. I'm not saying it is a giant eel, but I'm just using an eel as an example. So they ain't seen any kind of unusual creature, even maybe a turtle. Would they call that a monster back then? And the stories kind of grown by then. But I believe there is something in the Loch. But what it is, maybe one day we'll find out. They've been searching for God knows how long.
But then it's just people putting an image to something that they want to believe what it looks like.
Aye.
You know.
Aye, they create this image, you know, because you hear these different stories, different accounts, and they create this image. Oh, we've all done it, I did it as well. And they create an image in their head, like Gorbals Vampire. You know, he's meant to be 11 feet tall with big shiny iron teeth and all this. Because that's what the story says. You
Exactly.
know,
It's not exactly easy to hide if you're 11 foot tall.
Well, aye, where was your height? You get a tall tree, wouldn't you, or
Well,
something?
my husband's 6'6", and it's not easy to hide him. Trust me, I've
No.
tried.
He kind of sticks out like so.
Just a little.
So beat. But I think there is something in Loch Ness, but I don't think it's some prehistoric monster or something like that. But then saying that, there's another argument. There's so much of the world's oceans never been explored. There's probably things way down there that we've never ever seen. So is it something like that? You know. What's Irene saying? The country's full of myths and legends that we are careful of what we do to prevent spirits from coming out. I can't even post a paranormal video without it being cleansed first. I have to make a disclaimer about it. Irene's from Japan. We'll go there, Irene, with you, my friend. Japan. So I think there is something in Loch Ness, but it's a big tourist thing. It's good for Scotland. It brings in thousands of people every year, weather permitting. They go Nessie hunting, but I think we've even bought a couple of Nessie bits and pieces, and we were up at Urquhart Castle. I don't know, maybe it's August, September time or something, maybe.
Yeah, and it was lovely.
We were up. We were lucky to get an absolute beautiful day for it. Anybody ever comes to Scotland, if we get a chance, go up, and because it sits right in the banks of the loch, as you can see, and you can see literally right down the loch. It doesn't disappoint. What do you think, Sarah? Do you think there's a monster in Loch Ness?
I think it's a possibility. Because is it not also connected to the sea, that loch?
Aye, that's what it's connected to the sea.
So who's to say that whatever lives in the loch doesn't go out to the sea to feed on bigger fish and then goes back to the loch at night or whatever?
Which this is I'm glad you said, because this is the other thing that some scientists have said before, that there wouldn't be enough food supply in that lot to feed, some kind of I keep saying dinosaur. I don't know what other word to use. To feed some kind of dinosaur or something that it would need to, go out to eat, world buffet or something like that. Irene's planning on coming over to the UK. Well, drop us a line when you come, Irene, doll, and we can hopefully meet up with you. So I guess it goes out, because that goes out to the Irish, the North Sea. I think. It goes out to the North Sea, so it is entirely possible.
Absolutely.
I was maybe talking tonight. I need to learn to shut up, don't I? Carry on. I think there's a monster. There's so many sea creatures out there of all different shapes and sizes. I believe no one has ever seen or heard of to name.
Absolutely, yeah.
Totally agree with you, Gail. There's so much of the world's oceans never been explored yet, and Lord knows what's doing there.
Totally.
Stephen's seen a few photos of Nessie. There's a lot of photos kicking about, Stephen. See that one Sarah put up. There's another one, I believe it showed like 3 humps. It was like a giant eel, this thing, with tires. And there's been other photos taken of ripples in the water and bits and pieces, And there's been quite a few fake people have actually built, models of Nessie and went out to the Loch and folk have taken photographs of them and, this is what, I've got Nessie kind of thing. And they've got a cardboard cutout of a dinosaur on their head. I don't know if I was Scottish or no, mind you, but we're that kind of dim sometimes. We would do that with me for a laugh. And there have been accounts of Nessie being on land, like eating sheep and stuff, Hi, Martin Burry, thanks for coming in. So, I don't know who in the chat thinks yay or nay for a Nessie.
Aye, let us know. Obviously, most Scottish people are going to go with aye. Even if they don't believe it's like a dragon, dinosaur type creature, they believe it's some kind of creature in that water. It's fascinating to find out what you think. So let us know.
There's our first nay or no.
Aye, but Gail's already explained that could be something else that we don't actually know about or have found out that exists anyway. So
I know. I read the
technically aye. It's technically an aye for Gail.
She says no.
Aye, but we're going to go with aye, Gail.
How can you go with aye when the lady clearly says no?
She's saying.
There's a comment. Are we going to have a debate on a lie?
Looks like there is a monster. There's so many sea creatures. So that's what I was backing up.
And there she emphasises the no. You get it now. So where does that?
I get you, Gail.
How do you get an aye out of that?
Because she's Scottish, she has to say aye.
Was that the picture you were talking about, Scott?
Aye, that's the one. Aye, it's with tires.
Aye, I think that was proved that it was somebody got a wee constructed that for chicken wire, and that was just tiles.
Aye, that's the one I'm talking about. It's like bouncy, But some people actually do believe these photographs.
It's amazing to see the lengths that people are going to go to try and trick people into believing that there's something in that water.
Yeah, these are before Photoshop, Stephen.
Yeah.
Stephen, if you can send us the photos that you're talking about, buddy, I'd be interested to see them. Yeah, that's very true, man. That's what I'm saying. It might be something that we've never seen before that comes back and forward. But no, it's amazing some of the lines people will go to convince other people. It's again seems the paranormal. You get these people there that'll go to all sorts of lengths to try and get evidence or make up some cock and bull story, But I'll shut up because that's the name of my life. I shouldn't even be here.
But your opinion is
Actually,
You're fine.
Val, did you say that? Say that again on a live out loud. Your opinion is what?
Scott's opinion is valued.
Got it. On a live. Can't even right now. Did you say that? Anyway, that's me. I'll shut up.
Fantastic. Well, that story is about the Selkies. Now, most people have obviously heard of these. So, Selkies were actually mythical creatures that could transform themselves from a seal to a human form and back again. The legend of the Selkie apparently originates in the Orkney and Shetland Islands, where Selk or Selch, Selkie, is the Scots word meaning seal. Tales once abounded of a man who found a beautiful Selkie sunbathing on a beach. He stole her skin and forced her to become his wife and bear his children. The Selkie woman was often seen gazing lovingly at the ocean. Years later, the Selkie found her skin and later escaped back to seal form and subsequently back to the sea, leaving her children behind, never to return. Some versions of this legend say that the Selkie often revisits her children on the land once a year. Others say that the children would witness a large seal approach them and say hello. A Shetland version of the tale about the Selkie compelled to become a human wife was published in 1822. In this edition, the Selkie already had a husband of her own kind in the ocean before she was forced to stay on land. Some stories from Shetland have Selkies luring islanders into the sea at midsummer. The lovelorn humans never, ever to return to dry land.
I'd never heard the.
Neither have I.
I was going to say a selfie.
Selkie.
A selfie, not a selfie. Shut up, Scott. I haven't found Scotland. Possibly, Martin. We can look that up. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write that down.
You've got a pen in your phone.
I don't have anything to write with. Right one.
I've never actually
Right,
heard
yeah.
this behind the story of the Selkies, so I find this quite fascinating, to be fair. I think it's quite probable. Does anybody agree with me?
Aye.
So they can go from seal form to human form.
Aye,
It's-
and back again.
Well, it's not that far-fetched if you actually think about it. If we apparently, not to start a debate, but if we apparently originate from gorilla,
Seals.
no, gorilla, ape type, it's not that far-fetched why a seal can't go for us to a human.
But it makes you wonder where these stories originate from. I'm not being sceptical or anything, but obviously, so is it like Chinese whispers or is it, obviously they come from somewhere.
It's possible. I mean, passed down from great-grand to mother to daughter. Who knows?
I'm not dissing any of the legends of the myths. I think there's a lot of them quite fascinating. Some are just kind of, okay. But a lot of them are and it fascinating, and it part of what makes Scotland so attractive to people because of the legends and the history and the myths and stuff that's attached to this
Absolutely.
country. I need to stop talking.
Oh, it's fine.
How else was also reported to see things were
Mhm.
drunk or hallucinating as not real. That Martin
Possible.
makes a good point there.
Mhm.
Because obviously a lot of drinking went on, hallucinating, because they wouldn't have been well fed or they could have been ill and they could have been just seen stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the accounts came from. So that's a good point, Martin, actually. Thank you for that. What do you think of that one, Sarah? Where is she?
Don't know.
She's away. She left us. That's the third time somebody's left me on a
I
lie.
think it is possible.
Oh, she's back.
I think the fact that these sailors drank a lot of rum kind of could be an explanation for that. And the fact that they were out in sea for countless many months could be part of it, to be fair. Loneliness would play a huge part, as would drunkenness, and hallucinations would be very prevalent. That word.
Prevalent.
Aye, that word.
That's it.
Very
Well, what you can't
prevalent.
say.
Very-
What's the lips? Don't watch the teeth. You're going off of them left.
Would
Prevalent.
be very prevalent, because
Oh,
if you're stuck in a ship drinking and it is really warm, then yeah,
I'll
you
let
can
you
see
read.
that. I have to read what my husband says.
Why don't you read this one, since that's your husband and it's
Okay.
like that size?
But we've not got to the Kelpie yet.
Have we not? All right.
No, Laura was talking about a Selkie. A
Not a
Selkie and a Kelpie is two different things.
All right. That's my bad.
Too
That's,
bad.
but we'll
But-
get there, Craig. Don't worry. We'll get there.
On that note,
Alcohol makes everything work. Indeed,
Well,
it does, my
that's
dear.
true, Gail. That's true.
Ask Laura.
Just keep you out of this, thank you.
She was outdone by a teetotaler at New Year, but let's not go there.
I'm leaving.
I mean,
on that note, that is a Kelpie. The mythical Kelpie is the Scots name given to a supernatural water horse that was said to haunt Scotland's lochs and lonely rivers. It's usually been described as appearing as a horse, but is able to adapt human form. However, some accounts state that the Kelpie retains its hoofs when appearing as human, leading to the association with the Christian idea of Satan. Robert Burns even alludes to this idea in his 1789 poem addressed to the Dell. The Kelpie would appear to its victims as a lost dark grey or white pony, but could be identified by its constantly dripping mane and hoofs. It would entice people to ride on its back before taking them down to a watery grave.
Oh,
One specific story talks of a Kelpie captured by the Laird of Morphy. The Laird harnessed the strength of the horse-formed Kelpie by using a halter stamped with the sign of a cross. The captor forced the Kelpie to carry heavy stones to build his castle, and when the work was complete, the Laird released the Kelpie, who was understandably unhappy in his treatment. The Kelpie cursed the Laird of Morphy, a reason popularly believed to explain the extinction of the Laird family. And obviously this is the picture that we think of when we see the Kelpies
Mhm.
these days.
And Falkirk, yeah.
But in actual retrospect, they were actually quite evil,
Hmm.
if that's the right word to use.
But they're portrayed there as majestic and beautiful.
Whereas in actual fact, they used to lure you to ride them, and then they would take you down to the water and kill you.
Bit dramatic, that, isn't it?
a bit like a mermaid reel, innit? Well,
Aye.
meant to be. You know, they lure you in and they take you down and drown you or eat you. Well, you don't come back up anyway. There's your husband's comment now.
I've had to read it.
I'm not reading all that.
Oh, I have to
Your
read my
husband.
husband Kelly. Right. Regarding Kelpie, according to Derek Garth Whitney, 1911, the association with horses may have its roots in horse sacrifices performed in ancient Scandinavia. Stories of malevolent water spirits serve with the practical purpose of keeping children away from the perilous areas of water and of warning adolescent women to be very wary of attractive young strangers. The stories were also used to enforce moral standards, as they implied that the creatures took retribution for bad behaviour carried out on Sundays.
No, he's running out of words.
Okay,
I don't know.
carried out on Sundays. We'll just stop there then. And that's fascinating.
Oh, what are we calling? Stephen's saying that Kelpie is a breed of dog that originated in Australia.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that.
Oh,
I'm learning a few things about Australia since we got in touch with Kate and Gemma. You know, give him 4 quarts a day by Skipper was found too much, 1 calorie and just 2 drinks. His name was something like Captain Grog. Not sure, but that's how the
oh,
he came from. See, as we were saying earlier on
Oh,
about
yeah,
sayings that we have these days today. I'll start again. Sayings that we have these days that we don't know where they originated from.
That's
You know, things you say every day, and nobody ever gives a thought to wonder what's so groggy. Captain Grog.
Oh, well,
Next.
our last story, I think it's the last one, could be wrong, is about unicorns. Now, unicorns are having a moment these days, but look beyond the novelty and the shops, and you'll see it's not just a childhood toy or a whimsical fancy dress costume. The unicorn is, in fact, Scotland's national animal. Well, if you can call it an animal. Written depications of unicorns go all the way back to ancient Babylonians and Celts. By the 12th century, the unicorn came to be associated with nobility and power in Scotland. Eventually, it became a symbol of Scotland's freedom-loving spirit and its hauntingly beautiful wild nature. You can clearly see that the unicorn, wrapped in gold chains, on the royal coats of arms of both Scotland and the United Kingdom. One interpretation of this is that the Scottish kings were so powerful that they could master the strongest beast of all. When you look at Scotland's majestic landscapes and turbulent history, it's clear there's no better creature to represent the untamed land and its people of Scotland.
We're not untamed.
People would say we are.
We're trained. Unicorn, I don't know what unicorn. All I know about unicorns is our daughters right into them. And there's millions of other
Well, I think
kids and adults worldwide, so I can't really comment on unicorns, so use it on your own this one.
Well, I think it's a difficult one to think. I mean, you go to rhinos who have got horns, right? Clearly. And then from going to rhinos to horses, it's not that far fetched.
I'm not saying it's far-fetched, I just don't know sod all about them.
I believe they firmly existed, but a very, very long time ago. What about you, Sarah? What's your thoughts on that?
Aye, I think that if they did exist, it was a long time ago.
I think probably well, around about Christian time, early Christian times. You can see the majestic in that.
But there must be something about it because Scotland's adapted it as their national animal.
Is there no something about a unicorn's horn, but if you cut it off or something?
It loses its magic.
Was the horn not supposed to be magical or something like that? See, this shows how much I know about unicorns. Diddly squat, except they're quite popular in the shops.
I think the unicorn's horn, if you scraped it, it would give you the equivalent of fairy dust.
I think as well, if you cut a unicorn's horn off, because unicorns were able to fly apparently, so if you cut a unicorn's horn off, then they lost their ability, they lost their magic, and were unable to fly, and therefore just became horses. If I remember rightly.
I think that is right, yeah.
I don't have a clue.
That's just growing up with stories that we were told, you know. And you always were out when you were in the car as a young girl or whatever, you always were out in the car. And even now, we girls date, probably we boys date at all, and they look out for unicorns.
I never.
You know, you led a sad life.
I never knew you look for unicorns in the car.
I bet if I said to Amy, we'll go run in the car and Mum will look for unicorns, she'd be over the moon.
Possibly, Steve, unicorns just get fat and now they're called rhinoceros.
See?
Rhinoceros, right? I can't say that
I
word.
said that.
Say that word.
Rhinoceroses.
Rhinoceros.
I
Rhinos.
agree with this guy. I said that.
This guy's got a head and shoulders.
This guy clearly thinks I'm like Eddie.
So don't call them rhinos, just call them a fat unicorn.
I like that.
What do you think, Sarah? A fat unicorn? comes from the Loch again. Very unusual or something powerful and the mere value to
Yeah.
Again, Martin makes a good point. I see ways are named white horses, and the horn could come from the narwhal. So possibly that's where it's originated. Good point, Martin. I said Stephen. Sorry, Steve, I said Martin. I said Stephen. I'll shut up. Martin makes a good point.
It does. Because you always go, there's the white horses when you go to the beach. That's fair.
Does the Banshee feature in all Scottish myths? Not all of them, Brad. No, there is some legends about the Banshee, but they're not in all Scottish myths and legends. Again, the Banshees, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence with the Banshee as well.
I love that comment.
What?
Unicorns just got bad and now they're called rhinoceroses.
Oh, good, yeah.
That's brilliant.
On that point, doing a quick research, it says that certain poetical passages of the Bible refer to a strong and splendid horned animal called this word was translated unicorn or rhinoceros in many versions of the Bible, but many modern translations prefer wild ox.
Okay. Well,
As a biblical animal, the unicorn was interpreted allegedly in the early Christian church.
So who knows? Who knows?
And in an ancient Greek book, it states that the unicorn is a strong, fierce animal that can be caught only if a virgin maiden is placed before it. The unicorn leaps into the virgin's lap and she suckles it, and it leads it to the king's palace.
Who is this, that one?
so there is a royal connection there.
There's no much point in a unicorn being in Scotland. Let's get ahead of that, sir.
Not for looking for a virgin maiden, no.
No chance. Shut.
It also says that medieval writers thus linked the unicorn to Christ, who raised up a horn of salvation for mankind and dwelt it in the womb of the Virgin Mary.
I knew they had some kind of Christian aspect to it, as I said earlier, so it's good to get
And
that
there's
back up.
also a legend that the unicorns combat with an elephant, whom it finally spears to death with its horn, and of the unicorns purifying of poisoned waters with its horn so that other animals may drink.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating because you always associate the unicorn as beautiful and lovely and kind and nice, but no, clearly not.
No, I think what it means is that the unicorn used its horn to purify waters that were poisoned so that other animals could drink it.
Oh, that's nice.
So it was doing a good thing.
That was doing a good thing.
Also, in the medieval ages, in the Middle Ages even, cups were reputedly made of unicorn horn, but they were actually made of rhino horn or narwhal tusk, were highly valued by important people as a protection against poisoned drinks.
Oh, you can see that because of the association that you've just made, so that's fascinating.
Very good.
Yeah.
What's next? Who's next? Same
That's
as
it.
I think that's us. We've kind of covered.
Pegasus, was that a real creature, horse, whatever, or is that a legend as well? So that you've done,
It's
ladies.
the same kind of. Pegasus is the same idea as a unicorn, basically. It's just a
Pegasus
fancier-
was in that film.
Yeah, it's just a fancier name, really. But we covered what we 7 myths and legends that we found were the most fascinating, and that we hope you did too.
You get any more, Sarah?
Nope, that was it.
Well, thank you very much, Louise. On that note, we'll just wind it up for tonight. We're back tomorrow night, folks. We've got a busy week this week, actually. Tomorrow night, we have Ghost Sisters. Mandy and the team's coming in to see us at 9 o'clock. And then Thursday, Jackson and I are back with a chat with Jackson Scott, with Mr. Jim Martin, the CEO of the Spirit Realm Networks, coming on Thursday. See, Friday night, we're going out to the wee investigation. Saturday night, we have the start of Charlie for the Haunted Hunts, Andy Murphy for GKWP. I think I've got that right, Andy. And myself, we're starting a new show, The Lighter Side.
Not to be missed.
Not to be missed.
Not to be missed.
Not to be missed. So that's it for tonight, folks. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to Sarah and Laura for their missing legends.
You're welcome.
I hope you found it as interesting. I really need your teeth back. As that it? So tomorrow night, folks, 9 o'clock, we're back with Ghost Sisters, and hopefully we'll see you then. So take care for now.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.